Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Sage Thyme. Lillian here with you today. I had a bit of a longer sabbatical in hermit mode than I had expected, and I am simply grateful to be back and to be with all of you that are joining me in this video today. So we have entered, or we are entering, Gemini season right now today, as the sun, astrologically speaking, is crossing the 0 point degree of Gemini. This is the launching point for Gemini season, which will take us into June until June 21st, where the sun enters Cancer and also celebrates the summer solstice on that day. So here in the launching of Gemini season, I thought I would start to do readings for sun signs. And because we're starting Gemini on a day that is the beginning of Gemini season, we are starting with the Gemini sun signs. Of course, the way I approach astrology is we are all 12 signs, because when you look at your own astrological birth chart, which if you don't know how to do, you can put in free birth chart astrology in Google and it'll pull up. I often use Astroseek, and you can start getting an idea of what it looks like, even if you don't really know all the different things. But I like to do my card readings, tarot and oracle readings, alongside the multiplicity of astrological birth charts, meaning not just the sun, not just the moon, and not just the planets, also the signs and their house placements, as well as you'll see as time goes by, I like to integrate how everything aspects each other. And then you, knowing your own chart, getting familiar with your own chart, can start looking at how and tracking how that applies to your present life, and retrospectively, how these placements and interactions have played out through your life. And it's a very wonderful point of reflection and a way of personalizing your own divination to anticipate what to expect, where areas in your life you might feel jolted or surprised in a great way, not a great way, and how to ready yourself for those learning opportunities, as I like to put. I like to phrase things like tower moments. So here we go. Gemini, sun, and or any significant planetary aspects. A lot of people like to look at the moon with Gemini. Another good one is Mercury, as Gemini houses Mercury as well as Virgo. So you can look at Virgo as well. And also around mid-June, Mercury will be entering the sign of Gemini while the sun is still in Gemini. So Gemini will have the power of his, it's a masculine sign, the power of his solar, life-giving, ever powerful energy, along with the power of his adversary planet, which is Mercury. And we're dealing with communication with Mercury, as most of us know. But also, I think one of the things that's really missed, especially with Mercury and Gemini in the same sign, is the ability to channel information in a vertical sense versus a horizontal sense. And when I say that, I'm specifically speaking of, in contrast to a horizontal sense, those who are well attuned to their deeper listening abilities and can pick up on themes and emotions and thoughts and such in the collective, in the world around us. That's a horizontal sense. When I'm saying vertical, I'm speaking from the heavens to the underworld, which all exist within us. And Gemini with Mercury has a incredible capacity to channel, to open themselves in a vertical, receptive way, and to translate. That's the Mercury specialty. Being able to translate and then communicate things that are different languages, so to speak, not just cultural languages, but if you're a horizontal translator, you can translate the language of the plants and babies and animals and the more subtle things even beyond that. And when you're a vertical translator, which I believe really is a Gemini specialty, you can translate the languages of the heavens, the celestials, and the underworld, the deep, darker yet beautiful gems of learning and evolving conversations, lessons. Lessons is a weird word sometimes, but we're going to stick with that for right now. So let's get into, I already drew cards and laid out the format of how the cards wanted to be seen and speak. And you'll see that in the thumbnail. I think it's important to see how the cards want to play out in relation to each other. I don't do standard spreads. I let the cards lay out exactly how they want to speak. So the first two cards we got today, I got a new deck, a couple new decks, and I'm excited to integrate them. So the first two cards that came out from the Heavenly Bodies Astrology, I'll list the contributors in the information box down below. Here we have the Yang card, which lists the masculine astrological signs. From the top, we've got Aries, Gemini, what is that, Leo, I'm not remembering what's underneath that, possibly Libra, then Sagittarius, and finally Aquarius are the masculine signs. And then next to that, we have House 3, which says early learning. So the third house, depending on what sign you have in the third house, the general idea of the third house is early learning, childhood relations, the rational mind, and communication. So when we think of the third house, and whichever sign you have in the third house, you will combine the aspects of what influenced your development the most through how you interacted with the world around you, your parents, neighbors, playmates, teachers, the natural environment, and social environment, cultural environment, and how all of those things impacted your programming, your mental processing of rationale, and how also you communicate that. And do they correlate? How you think and how you speak, are they translating the language that's in your heart and your mind and your experience, or is there a dissonance? Is there a disconnect between those? Do you feel that and perceive that in those around you? And what's the impact of that on who you are and what your personal heart purpose is, your goal purpose? And then with the Yang card, I didn't read the underneath. It speaks of the essence of Yang, which is proactivity, expression, doing, and forward movement. And at first I was a little like, this doesn't fit with the rest of the reading entirely. I was starting to get a different message from the whole reading. And what was beautiful was after the Yang card came out, the Two of Pentacles and the House 9, which is the ninth house, has to do with spiritual growth. So if you take the three cards that want to speak to each other. And this was like a little reminder saying, okay, you've got this young energy because we're in young season. Not only is the sun in Gemini, but we've got a few planets moving into Leo. There's just a lot of, and it's summer, young energy. And the Two of Pentacles you can see here is talking about balance. Remember, while you're moving and doing and shucking and jiving and making things happen in the world, remember what the 9th house speaks to, which is spiritual growth. And if you're looking at your birth chart, look at which sign is in the 9th house, and look at how it wants you to work with your spiritual growth. So maintaining this cerebral influence of communication, and it really feels like we're still working through, well, still always, right? Such is the way of life and the purpose of it. The influences and how they embedded of our childhood, particularly around how the people around us communicated with each other and with us, how we integrated that, and how we now convey that with the world around us. So recognizing how that's playing out in a manifesting way into the physical reality, the common reality that you are working with, not strictly speaking how you as an individual are communicating and manifesting, or thinking and manifesting by your actions, but also the really more subtle things, how your quieter thoughts are influencing in an energetic way how the world is opening up and unfolding before you, because that really is when we start to get into the deeper nuance of spiritual growth and recognition, is when we become aware and then eventually masterful at many different levels, how our thoughts and ultimately our consciousness and our heart space, without any outward action or vocalization, starts to make the world around us malleable. And that malleability becomes a tangible access point into either what we are desiring on an obvious conscious level, or what we are desiring to learn to be better at on a subconscious level. So if having a healthy relationship or the dream job and occupation is at the high level of a goal, but there's still playing in your mind a unworthy feedback influence from childhood, or the lack of abundance, needs being met, if those things are still playing out, either in a great big way and multifaceted way, or even in those little threads, those little slivers, still kind of running ever so quietly in the back of the conscious mind, they will present themselves in the exterior world to get your attention. They will draw you into a relationship that at some point brings the conflict up, that is speaking to you to say, this is inside of you. Now we will think, oh, this person is doing this, this, and this. But really what's going on is generally some sort of an inverted, so it's a little more challenging to recognize. Sometimes it's an obvious reflection. And sometimes it's more of a spiritual goal, like compassion. You know, if you wanted to be a very compassionate person because you didn't have a lot of that maybe around in your environment growing up, it will be very common to face a plethora and many variances of situations that become ever more challenging, to be compassionate, to feel compassion. And those are the lessons we etch into our life pathway before we come in, and continue to do so as we go. And as that is resolved, then we start to become masterful, right? At working with the different levels of consciousness in cognition and thought patterns, and nature versus nurture patterns growing up, as well as our deliberance of presence, the balance that we hold in our spiritual prerogative, which always, again, anchors in the heart, that space of emotion without feeling. There's a feeling, and it's a tricky thing to explain with words, but it's just that space of pure love, grace, without the words that need to define it or react or emote or take in. So those are the messages that are coming through in terms of Gemini season and Gemini sun sign, particularly with balancing the energies as we launch into summer. Now, this is going to be great to apply in any sense throughout the summer. This is the yang season. So then next came out, next to the house 3 of early learning and childhood influences, came out the Lover's card and 9 of Pentacles. Let's see if I can get this without the glare. So Gemini, specifically, sun signs, you came into your own reading. The Lover's card is the card of Gemini. And 9 of Pentacles, we'll speak to that here in a second. First, I want to get to the Lover's card. Traditionally, that card has to do with making a choice. And what I'm seeing in here, of course, choice is always the banner sign of self-empowerment, as being able to become so finely attuned to choosing conscious choice, and choosing to have the sovereignty to make your own conscious choice in any given moment. Here today, the Lover's card actually was feeling, in some ways, quite literal. Obviously this card has a romantic depiction of the man and the woman, the masculine and the feminine. And I'm hearing right now, really, that's what Spirit wants you to focus on within yourself. Becoming more enhanced with and greater powered by your divine masculine and your divine feminine. Bringing them in, allowing them to merge, and opening your inner world to become spacious and nurturing and loving and powerful with both that yin and yang, the feminine and the masculine energies, and letting those two energies come together and make love. Make love within yourself, of yourself, for yourself. And that is a powerful, that is a powerful empowerment. And to spend time with the question, what is it to be in love with myself? And break those words down. To be in love, in the space of higher love, divine love. To be in the presence of that means to me to be surrounded by pure divine love, and to be in it within me. And divine love is the combination of the masculine and feminine. It is the sacred unity of those two in order to create something new. So explore that, being in divine union, sacred love with your own masculine and feminine. And what are the Also the common world day-to-day aspects of that, to be in love with the self and to recognize that. How do you start looking at that and feeling into what that might be? And I go to words like self-worth. What am I? What are you worthy of? And when you answer that question for yourself, if the answer is things like, no, I am worthy of peace, I am worthy of having my needs met, I am worthy of playing and adventuring, I'm worthy of health and a liberated body, I'm worthy of healthy, fun relations with others, life-giving and receiving, and I think I keep thinking of the word adventure, but it's bringing me to like just growth, like relations with people around you that not only nurture and uplift, but they enhance and enrich you by offering you growth and you offering it to them in a way that is in that calm, centered heart space. So when you start asking yourself those core questions, oh, my little buddy, he's squeaking and having puppy dreams. I must be in the right flow. He always indicates it that way. So when we ask ourselves those core questions, what do I deserve? At a core level, and letting those baseline words come out, and then from there, letting the details of what that looks like fill itself in, not by our mind, but by our heart, which has no words and no labels. It simply exists and feels as that divine union of masculine and feminine, high, pure love. And when that is being held and nurtured and honored and allowed to move and flow and make love within the body, so to speak, and create outside in the projection of the reality, then we let go of the mental attachments of what we think it ought to be, and we simply open up to observing it and enjoying it, because it expresses itself outside of us for us, and we know it is. And that is what the Nine of Pentacles here is. You can see this woman, if you can see the card properly. She's sitting at the piano and she's playing her song with the trees growing out of the piano. She is creating a forest of life, this great grand pentacle with all of its multiple, the nines, right? It's a plethora of abundance, almost to fulfillment. And you can see here she's sitting on a snail shell. She is taking her time, immersed in the song of her creation, these two trees representing the duality within her, the Lover's card, growing together and apart, unique, different, even contrasting at times, yet still honoring each other as they're connected by that pentacle in the center. And she, not looking down at her hands at the keys, she's looking up at her creation, letting the music flow through her body and her arms, and enjoying and observing what the music is creating all around her in detail. And in here you can see underneath her, not detail, it's the cosmic seas underneath her coming together through her snail shell and her body, forming the details from her piano, from her creation, and her vessel, her body, being the vessel that holds that divine masculine and divine feminine. As long as she lets go of the inhibiting, limiting neural conditions, the conditioning, the programs of the mind, letting go of the reality that says reality is this or that, that says society requires this or that, health requires this or that. fulfillment requires this. She's just letting it go and letting it flow, because there is a power, many powers, so much greater than her. She's learned that. She knows it. She's at the 9. And she's beyond trusting it. She just knows it and lets it flow. And that's her creative expression, which is the yang energy, the divine masculine, creating. And within is the yin, nurturing and developing. So below the 2 middle cards, the yang in the 3rd house, is the 6 of Pentacles and the 8 of Wands. And I feel like really now this is a reiteration of what I just spoke of in a lot of ways. Here we have the 8 of Wands, right? Yeah. And he is casting his wishes to the wind. And the 6 of Pentacles is similar to the 9 of Pentacles. He is playing his song to add the energy of abundance to a seed that is growing below him, a little sproutling. And you can see it's growing here underneath the cover of a briar bush. All those thorns and stickers that have kept it in a space of needing protection and not feeling like it can flourish, not knowing that it can grow out of what looks like arid, non-nutrient rich soil, and not knowing that it has a power to call in support, unseen support, right? This man's music playing through his pipe and creating this tangible pentacle creation life force. And the seed doesn't see all that, but boy, it, and the sproutling, but it feels it and it receives it, and it's open to it, open to that receiving without seeing it, without being able to identify it. And it says, yeah, all right, I'm growing. And you can even see here at the bottom, there's like, I don't know if you can see it, if it'll show up on the camera. There's these ringlets around it like water, but there's no water there. It's almost like an etheric water coming to. And that little seedling has brought that impossible, according to its understanding of reality, that impossible contribution of needed, essential ingredients for it to grow in an unbelievably impossible way, place, and environment to grow. And yet it is. It's growing above and beyond, and it's breaking apart all the restrictions and all the paradigms around it. And I think that's just fabulous. And so then we come near to finishing up the reading with I try to stay short in these recordings, and I just don't have that yet. So we've got the sign of Cancer and house 4. Aren't those beautiful? I love these new cards. I know they're more subtle, but they just offer so much. Okay. And you know what else is beautiful? We've got the moon reflecting itself in the water for both of these. And I just realized Cancer, its natural place, its natural house to be in, regardless of where it is in your chart, is the 4th house. Cancer is affiliated with a lot of things. It's personal. It's also home and family. It's the maternal, it's house, it's comfort. And I'm hearing right now, create your own home. Create it within you. Say to yourself, and use this as a mantra, I am home. And let that unfold into all the different meanings that it is for you. I am home. Be your home. Be that nurturing, inward and reflective and reflecting self of care, safety, comfort and needs met, even if the external world looks dry and arid and thorny, and it seems impossible that you could say, there's a lot of people who don't have enough food or medical needs. But when you start creating the narrative within yourself that says, I am home, I am safe, I am everything I need, when you do that long enough, and with true devotion and dedication to the cause of what those words would mean to you, then that cause comes back to you. The universe doesn't do empty spaces and vacuums. So by creating an opening of home, safety, nourishment, health, wholeness, if it's not there, the universe starts vacuuming it towards you, or yourself, your creative vortex starts calling it in. And so be that home, be that fourth house. It says here, cultural and family roots, home, peace, and comfort. Create your family roots. Even if the roots are one thing or another that you prefer or don't, or a mixed bag of it, create yours within you. And then watch that creation come towards you and surround you and embrace you. And then Cancer, it says, nurture, comfort, and protection. That is the new mode of protection, the new mode of nurture and comfort. And it's the most powerful mode there is to, with conviction and with devotion, be that within you. Bring your consciousness to it within your body and being, and let that consciousness sprout and be nurtured by your thoughts and your feelings and your devotion. Be that unseen contributor of incredible power and energy to the life, the story, the roots that you are creating of you, within you and then around you. That is the nutshell of it all, isn't it? And then right before the Cancer and the fourth house cards came out, the Saturn card came out on its side a bit. And I thought, oh, that doesn't, and then the other two cards came out right after over the top of it. I thought, oh, that doesn't quite fit, and it does. Saturn can be a trickster, the two-faced, meaning the dichotomy, the polarity. It can be the oppressor, the stern tyrant. And it can also, when shifting perspective, it can be the shell that crunches down on the chick before she finds it within her to create the fortitude and the strength to break through that shell. And it's that creation of fortitude and strength that enhances and enables her survival and her longevity and her health. It's that oppressive force of the chrysalis that without it, the butterfly would not be able to have the strength to open her wings. And it is the enlightenment that comes only, like the powerful enlightenment that comes only from suffering and struggle. And let's see, what else does it say here on here? It says learn hard work and patience. Learn hard work. I'm missing an apostrophe. Learn hard work and patience. So when I read the word learn, I heard change your perspective. You can always change your perspective. Someone could be screaming at you and being the most volatile or harmful individual outside of you, and you're like, reasonably, how am I supposed to change my perspective on this? This is very clearly an assault, one way or another. But there is a way, and when you can spend enough time away from, that's why hermiting is so fantastic, going into those dark nights, going into the beauty of the underworld. And when you can spend those quiet solitude moments and start recognizing the growth that comes from the harsh environments that Saturn brings, there becomes a high level respect for what that energy, that archetype is trying to teach us. That paternal withdrawn even sometimes. And when that respect is recognized in that archetype, there's a new dynamic of relationship between the self and that archetype. And it no longer feels like an oppressive, abusive, attacking, life-destroying, or, never, providing or something like that. There's that impatience thing. When you know what you know and you know what you want, but you have to wait because you have to go slow. And that's Saturn. Saturn speaks to, it takes the time it takes. So go slow, sit on your seat of a snail shell. Enjoy the process, even if it's restrictive, even when it's compressing, because you've been through the experience enough time to know that that process, that compression, that birthing through the canal is exactly what's going to bring the best rewards. And so that's Saturn's placement here underneath Cancer in the 4th house. Saturn is here to remind us, be reverent of the dark night. Be reverent of the harsh environments. Be reverent of the incomparable, not unkind, that's qualifying it, the incomparable, narrow passages that are unrelenting in our wants. They do not allow. Be reverent in those, because the incredible, never-ending opportunities of understanding and personal development, cognitively, heart-centered, in physical form, and deeply in the never-ending layers of consciousness. It makes everything worth it. It is the purpose. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. Thank you for your likes, your subscribes, and thank you for your comments. As always, I love to hear your voice and your thoughts and reflections on what was being spoken to and how that's applying to your life today. Much love to all of you. Safe passages and happy Gemini season.